First one, real easy. When can a school district share a student photo?
That's easy?
Gretchen, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very happy to be here at F3. This is an awesome place. I've had the luxury of working with F3 Law in my previous districts. The team here is fantastic.
Thank you.
Always so responsive. Always just the quality of the work, the advice that you provide, just amazing stuff. So I can't thank you enough. I know you're super swamped. And I'm so happy that you're taking the time to talk to me today. We're talking photos and photography today.
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where we are.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. My name is Gretchen Shipley, and I'm a partner at the law firm of F3, or Fagan, Friedman, and Fulfrost, which is why we call ourselves F3. And we're education attorneys. We're school lawyers. We work with school districts across the country, and my practice is primarily focused on education technology. And when we're talking about photos and videos and student data privacy is really important, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
I have a list of questions here.
Okay.
These are things that I know have come up when I've traveled around at other state conferences, at the California public relations state conferences. These are questions that I've had over the years or that I've kind of heard over the years. So I'm going to come at you kind of rapid fire.
Bring it on.
We're doing a cross-examination here.
Okay. Turn the tables.
Yeah, I'm not an attorney, but I don't even play one on TV, but we're going to do it. It's going to be fun.
Okay.
Okay, so first one, real easy. When can a school district share a student photo?
That's easy? Okay. So here's the idea. There's many times in which a school district, for administrative ease, wants to share a student record, a student photo, like the yearbook company.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they will designate student photos as something called directory information, which is we don't have to go get parent permission each and every time before we release a student's directory information,
Okay.
Their name, their age, their photo. But in order to do that, what you do is school districts have something called an annual notice to parents, in which they establish what directory information includes. And that notice says, your photo is going to be considered directory information. We can release it to anyone who has a legitimate educational interest and needs that information, unless you opt out.
Okay. Now, why would a parent want to opt out of directory information?
So that is very, very important. It's
Okay.
usually a student safety issue. I mean, the sad part is, why would a parent not want their student's image shared publicly by a school district?
Highlighted, like win a pottery contest or a poetry contest. Yeah. Good stuff.
And there could be a perfectly good reason why you want to take a student's image and put it up on the district's website, and they won an award. But, there's a lot of non-custodial parents out in the world who, for safety reasons, they don't know where their children are located. They don't know where they live, or there's a lot of domestic violence. And so we have a lot of parent restraining orders. The custodial parent often doesn't want the non-custodial parent to be able to track their kid down and find them. And
makes sense.
So you have a right to opt out. You have a right to opt out of having your student's image shared.
Okay.
And then how important it is for a school district to actually acknowledge that and follow that process.
So how do you recommend school districts adhere to follow that opt-out process?
So, I can give an example. We're in San Diego County, near the border, and there was a school district, it was in the news, where I believe the teacher had posted the student's image on the school website or the classroom website. The parent was able to, they had just gotten out of jail, identify where their kid was now, what they looked. They came in the pickup line after school. It was dad, and saying, hop in the car, and the kid got in the car, and unfortunately the parent took him over the border, and he didn't get recovered for 3 years.
That is tragic.
But the point is, the legal liability, where the lawyers come in, is there's a legal right to have your child opted out. And if a school district violates that, it really can put a kid in jeopardy. It can create a safety issue. So the procedure, really important that school districts have a clear way in which those are recorded, the opt-outs, and that teachers can check it. So when they are taking classroom photos, you know that I have a student who shouldn't be included in the photo if it's going to be posted publicly.
Yeah, and that's really good. As a PIO in all of my previous districts, when I was going to a classroom to take photos or videos, usually, I mean, they're set up in advance. You know you're going. You don't just show up to a school to start taking photos and videos. They're set up in advance. You know you're going to go. So an example, I was covering a fourth grade class. I think it was fourth grade. They were making marshmallow catapults. So they had broken up little spoons. They were seeing how far they could launch a marshmallow. Super cute. And I knew that I wanted that as a video because in that district I was making a really quick 1-minute video every single week of all the cool things kids were doing. So I knew I had to have marshmallow launches in the video.
All right.
And so as an example, what I did was I identified the teacher of the classroom and I just got in touch with the front office and I said, hey, in the student database, can you please run me a list of the names in that class at that time that are opted out, that are not media released, get that to the teacher. And then I emailed the teacher, hey, you're going to get a list from the front office. It's going to have your opt-outs in it. It might be 2 or 3 kids. Just make sure you know who those students are so that when I come into the room, you can tell me really privately, and quickly, hey, the kiddo in the white shirt over in the corner, the kiddo wearing the black, hoodie. I know what students to watch out for. Please do not separate them. I made it very clear, like, don't separate them. Certainly don't slap a sticker on their back. I've seen that happen. Don't slap a sticker on their back or something that calls them out as the kid that can't be photographed. Just let me know who they are. I will work around that. And it's never failed.
That's great. And you mentioned the student information system. That's probably the most common way in which school districts track it, that there's a notation in the student information system. But then it's incumbent upon the teacher or the school site principal or the sub or to be checking on that database to know who's opted out.
I've had schools under my purview over the years use the smiley face emoji to cover a student that's opted out. I always kind of felt like, yeah, you're hiding their face. It's a group shot, probably okay. You're outside, but everybody knows who that covered student's face is because it's a class full of students. A parent looking at that social media post later, they're going to turn to their kid and go, Johnny, who's got the smiley face over their face? Oh, that's Eddie. Well, now everybody knows Eddie is not media released, or that was Eddie in the shot. I mean, it just calls out in a way that I was always uncomfortable with. But does the smiley face thing, does that work?
That is a very nuanced question because the law that we're talking about is called FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Hope I got that right. FERPA. And what it says is the school district can't share that student's image. So by putting the smiley face, you are effectively meeting that legal obligation. But then you're creating a secondary issue of, is that kid being somehow discriminated against, ostracized, because they are now being identified as a kid who has opted out or has an extra level of privacy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's grounds for discrimination. So I think you actually probably would be okay with
check with your local
with the smiley face. I think you're fine.
Legal team on that, but yeah, I always felt uncomfortable by it, and so I would always in my staff trainings just tell staff that, hey, if you took a picture, and I promise you, it's going to be the best picture you took that day, and there are students that are opted out in it, just delete the photo. That's always been just sound, conservative. I have had an instance where it wasn't me that did it, but I had to own it because I'm in the communications office, but we did post a picture where a student had been opted out at one of our school sites on social media, and the response was quick and legal. But fortunately, the requirement was just to simply delete the post. Yeah. We met that requirement very quickly. All was resolved. But it certainly stirred up a hornet's nest for about 2 hours there while everybody tried to figure out what was going on and why and what happened. So I always just err on, if you have a photo, even if it's a group photo, students opted out in that photo, just find another photo to use.
Yep, that's much easier.
Who can directory information be shared with?
Okay, so again, school districts have to put out an annual notice to parents. And in that, they define what is directory information and the types of organizations. And it's usually district-affiliated organizations. It's not for-profit companies.
Okay.
You don't want to set your kids up for advertising. But what's really interesting, this law, FERPA, that I'm talking about, that governs directory information, is from the 1960s. So when they wrote laws about, school districts for administrative ease can go ahead and share a student photo, they weren't thinking the internet.
I knew where you were headed.
Or
social media. Facebook.
Right. And again, if you have a student who's a valedictorian, you want to share that on your social media page.
Be proud.
So what we recommend is that directory information, that annual notice to parents, be updated to clarify if you want to include, districts have discretion on how they define directory information, but if you wanted to include photos and video clips that go on your social media and go on your website, say it expressly.
Makes
and
sense.
then they get the right to opt out. But the one thing that's a little dangerous is if you don't do it and then you're still putting students' photos and videos on social media, then parents you have to have another form of permission. Then you'd have to get express permission in advance, or else you are violating that student's privacy rights.
You bring up two things that I want to highlight. One is you said something really good there, so I think it bears repeating. Spell it out explicitly, especially like online registration, the open enrollment window that you have for parents, what the opt-out means. If you are media released, it means your image may be shared. Website, like spell that out, like you said. Just make sure everybody caught that. Also, anytime I really wanted to use an image for something greater than just like social media, like it was going to be on the banner photo of my website, or we did routine mailers in some of my districts where we mailed everyone in the county, maybe leading into a bond, program or season, we would send mailers home so people knew how dollars were being spent, and the you can't directly advocate for the bond, but you can certainly highlight what positive impacts bonds have had on your district. And so obviously student photos go a long ways in that. And I would check first in my student database, are these photos, these kids that I've got in here, are they media released? And then if yes, I would take it one step further, still reach out to the parents, just say, hey, I'm about to send out 30,000 copies of this mailer home. I have a really wonderful photo of your kiddo doing something really amazing in class. You already media released, so you've already given your permission to have this photo used. But I wanted to check in with you on that. Is that okay? I never, ever once had a parent say no. On the flip side, there have been times where I have a valedictorian, or I've got somebody that's won like a statewide or even a national competition, and they're opted out. And this is amazing. And then I've had the students like, hey, why am I not being highlighted? Mm-hmm. And in that case, I've reached back out too. Hey, your kiddo, this is amazing. We're so proud of you, your family, your child's accomplishment. And 9 times out of 10, that conversation goes like, oh my gosh, I opted out of that?
Right.
I had no idea. So don't be afraid on both sides of the coin to reach out back home. Right. I have had that 1%. I've reached back out. No, there's a valid reason. Great. All fair.
When in doubt, you can always get parent permission.
Get parent permission. That's awesome. There were some unique ones in a previous district where I would call, and they were opted out simply because they were under contract with like movie studios and different things like that, right? So I was always impressed when I got a hold of a student. I was like, that makes sense now.
And one thing that's just wild about the whole application of this law is it was intended for things like the yearbook.
Yeah.
Because again, social media didn't exist. Okay, we used to have a buzz book. Okay, everybody got the student directory with our home phone numbers on it, our landline, and I'm aging myself here, and in a yearbook. And some people wanted to opt out of sharing that information. But that is how the same law is framed, and people's information can be available on such a larger scale now through the internet that's why the policies need to be updated and the communication needs to be really clear about what you're sharing, how you're sharing it, and parents' permission levels.
That's awesome. Well, I only have a couple more questions for you. We're almost done. What about, and this is a hot one that always comes up. What about staff or parents who take photos on campus?
Really tricky. Okay, so staff are school district employees. They have to follow the same rule as a school district. If they're posting things, they are speaking on behalf of the district. So same rules. Like they should only be sharing student images of students who haven't opted out, who were part of that directory information group, and only for legitimate educational purposes, not on their personal social media or website or anything else. It would only be something that was clearly district approved. And then parents are tricky because usually what we say is if they're on campus to volunteer, then they need to take on the same rules and responsibility that a school district has.
Makes sense.
Like if you're going to volunteer, a condition of that is you can't be snapping away photos in the classroom and sharing it on your own personal social media. If you're the yearbook parent or you're submitting it to the yearbook, that's fine, but be really mindful. Again, it's the same rule that applies. When in doubt, go ahead and ask parent permission.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you do. Maybe you're on the field trip and you took a cute picture of your own child and their friend and you want to put it on social media. I would go ahead and ask that parent permission just as a good practice as a community member.
Yeah, and I know as a parent, that's happened.
Yeah.
So my wife being a teacher, she's gone on field trips and gotten really cute pictures of, our kids or their friends' kids. And yeah, we always do that. Like, hey, is this okay? And then, you do that once and you just know that if you get pictures in the future, like they're usually the parents like, yeah, please, that's so awesome. Tag me in it. So
one thing that can
advice.
get really hard is, and again, I brought up FERPA, and that's what protects student privacy and images and sharing of images, is FERPA protects student records, which are personally identifiable records, and it doesn't protect crowds.
Yeah, what about group shots?
Right. So in theory, those aren't a protected student record. So because graduation, the football game, the audience, I'm trying to think, a student school play.
Yeah, school play.
So this gets really tricky. What if someone has a solo? And then it's an individual student. And so
is there an expectation of privacy at a public event?
Not really.
Okay.
And so it's a public school, it's a public place, it's a public event. But as a school district, you can always put out a best practice to your family and your community member. Again, group shots, there's not much you can do to prohibit that. But if it's a school talent show or a play, before taking images or sharing them of a student who is not yours, please go ahead and ask parent permission. I don't know that a school district could enforce that all that much, but it really diffuses any issues that there might be in the community. I mean, like I said, as a good citizen, before you post an image of anybody's child, you should always probably ask permission. So if it's an individualized photo in the school play, please ask permission. If it's a group shot, in theory, it doesn't enjoy the same level of protection.
Yeah, we were just at a school play just a couple of weeks ago, and clicking away of our student, right? But everybody else on the stage is so. That's good. That's good info. That's actually kind of all I had on this particular topic. I think we could probably spend an hour on this. I guess one follow-up I would have that I always seem kind of surprised when I have new PIOs come into the field and I'm talking to somebody that just is maybe new to the kind of the world of communications, the level of surprise that they have that it's perfectly okay if you're out on a sidewalk to take pictures of kids on the playground, right? And I've had people go out and ask them to leave, and then that person know their rights. No, I can be here. This is a public sidewalk. I can take these photos. It's weird. But in that regard, do you have any kind of advice or recommendations for school staff or that you would talk through on that? If a district called you and said, hey, I've got a guy out here on the sidewalk taking pictures.
So we definitely deal with things like restraining orders against people who are peering on. That can be characterized as a safety issue.
Okay.
So you're right. I mean, they're in a public place and people are taking photos. But you can characterize creepy guy on the street corner taking pictures of kids as a safety issue.
Okay.
And typically we could get either the police to issue like a stay away order or a restraining order. And so in this day and age, you're balancing someone's maybe their right to take a photo versus creating a safe school. I mean, think about active shooters.
Yeah.
You don't want them to canvassing the school. Yeah. So I think you really can create legal arguments of why safety would override their right to take kids' photos. So
that's great. Well, check local laws and local jurisdiction. That's great info.
And I should mention, because we're talking, I mean, the bigger theme here is student privacy.
Yeah.
And we do have a number of resources all about student data privacy, whether it's through software agreements or privacy protections on our website. So quick plug, it's f3law.com/privacy. Is a whole bunch of different resources all dedicated to student privacy.
That's great. We'll link to that in the description. So you don't have to remember the URL. Just scroll down there and click on it. That's awesome. I can't speak highly enough about F3, the resources and the help. I mean, I started off the video that way, and as we wrap up here, I'll just end it that way too. Always so fantastic, helpful. The courses that you have online, the courses that you teach in person, just like this, they're just chock full of solid information. So really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. Hopefully, I mean, that's all I have for you. All
right.
Our cross-examination is over. I know, right? Yeah, it was so bad for you. I'm sure all this stuff is so easy for you. But really appreciate you being here and taking the time out of, I know, a crazy hectic schedule supporting districts all over the place. So if you like this, please be sure to like, share, comment, follow for more. Gretchen and I are doing 2 other videos, one of them on social media, one of them on the Public Records Act and FOIA. So if you found this helpful, be sure to check those out. I'm sure you'll find those helpful as well. I really enjoyed doing all of this with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Take care.
All right, that's it. We'll see you.
Bye.